is my plywood robot arm, and I've made some modifications. I've added a vacuum gripper and a wrist rotation. The wrist rotation is good for when you're picking up items and moving it. You get what's called field rotation, because you're moving rotationally around an axis, so you can use it to correct rotation and keep dropping objects square on the surface, and you'll see that later. The vacuum gripper is good because it lets you pick up things that are too thin or to touch with robot arm grippers. So in this case, I'm picking up and setting down cards, which you wouldn't have a prayer of using with regular grippers. And it's field rotation again. The vacuum gripper was actually pretty hideously hard to make. It took me 5 tries in total to get it right. You have to have essentially no leaks in your design. The suction cup, I've got a hole drilled in it. I've got a copper tube. The copper tube is then soldered to a T-junction, which goes to the pipe. Everything's got to be leak-proof. This thing is now not running a regular program. It's running a G-code interpreter. And that way I no longer need to program the robot arm. It's basically fixed. And instead, from the PC, I'm streaming G-code, which I wrote, down to the robot arm. G-code is really easy to parse and act upon. The hardest part of it was the flow control. That turned out to be relatively difficult to get right, because you only have a 64-character buffer on the microprocessor I'm using. Other than that, the other hard part was writing the G-code. G-code is not meant for humans to write. It's meant for machines. All right, so that is the G-code robot arm dealing out cards.